With most drivers thankful to leave Kansas behind, the team strapped in for the roller coaster hills of Laguna Seca. Dan Rash sat on pole while Kimmo Suominen began beside him in second. In the ST class, Dexter Castro was fastest in qualifying, with James Stevenson filling out the front row. Before the green even fell, Ed Verras spun and hit the wall while exiting the carousel, starting himself out on the wrong foot. At the green, all was copacetic while the cars felt their way through the first lap. But the Lagoon's infamous difficulty showed up early when German Afanador caused Eric Smith to check up at the final turn. Caught unawares, Patrick Bieri tagged Smith and sent the American to the back of the pack. Bieri's heavy damage would handicap him for the remainder of the race. Alexis Molina was the next victim, discovering the dangers of rainy curve on lap 7. Finally, Steve Brown narrowly escaped disaster when giving it too much gas out of the corkscrew. In ST, João Freitas set out to make up for his qualifying problems, and an incredible display went from last to second by lap 7. The Portuguese driver slowly reeled in Castro, who was leading, and began to put the pressure on. The 49 Motorsports driver buckled on lap 13 and sailed off the track at turn 6, handing over the lead to Freitas. Matthew Reinold was not so lucky to avoid the barriers and made a mess of his sheet metal at the bottom of the hill. Meanwhile, Castro made short work of chasing down Stevenson in second, but while heading into 5, the New Englander misjudged the Aussie's braking distance and in a repeat of last season's race, rear-ended James. At this point, many drivers began to make their stops. Rash and Suominen resumed as they were, but had dropped Todd Honzarenko by a dozen seconds or so. Eric Smith continued to make progress after his early trouble, getting all the way to 6th with a half an hour to go. Smith stalked behind Russell Clayson, who decided he couldn't wait around for traffic and went 3 wide into turn 10. Freitas took to the dirt for safety and Jarrett Lawson lost control, but no contact was made. Finally, Eric's patience paid off on lap 35 when Cannonball put a wheel off and his V-Apex Mustang skidded off the track. Though Rash and Suominen were similar on pace most of the season, the Frito-Made Mustang proved too much for the Finn on this day as Dan took his 4th win of the season. Kimmo came home second and wrapped up the GS Championship in only his rookie year. Behind him, Honzarenko pulled in a quiet 3rd. In ST, even though Castro continued to push his white and green machine as hard as he could, James Stevenson began to close the gap. On lap 49, the red and green machine started to attack. But in a bit of ironic justice, Dexter overdrove the car into 5 and allowed James by on the very corner he had pushed him off earlier in the race. Meanwhile, ahead of it all, Freitas was pushing at 10/10ths the entire way. It eventually bit him with a spin out of turn 9 on lap 53, but his lead was so insurmountable that he still retained over a minute gap to the next car at the checkered flag. It was Freitas' first win in the series, and it was an absolute blowout. Stevenson placed second, but had already taken the ST Championship at Kansas. Because João had lapped the 4th place car, Dexter Castro still managed to finish 3rd despite not completing his final lap as he ran out of fuel. Both championships are decided, but the season finale still awaits in the Green Hills of New England. A simple layout belies a deceivingly difficult and punishing track as the Continental Endurance Sports Car Series gets ready to take on Lime Rock Park.